want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Welcome back to Hacks on Hacks, the media criticism podcast preferred by dozens of savvy listeners. I'm Sonny Bunch, executive editor of the Washington Free Beacon and co-host of the Sub Beacon podcast. Joining me on my left, ironically, is Free Beacon senior writer Liz Harrington. Liz, how are you?
Great. How are you, Sonny?
Great. And joining me on my right again, ironically, is Free Beacon staff writer and noted squish Alex Griswold. Alex, how are you? Did you survive the snow day?
I did, but barely.
Okay, good. First up, Jussie Smollett. Despite some obvious oddities in the Smollett story, we're supposed to believe that a MAGA hat-wearing racist is so into Empire that they recognize the fourth most recognizable star of the show on site in the middle of the night when it's negative 1,000 degrees outside. The media was all too credulous in response, as David Rutz noted in a supercut for The Beacon. Let's take a listen to that now.
It's been 2 weeks since that night left actor Jussie Smollett bruised but not broken, and he's still processing the raw emotions.
A horrific middle-of-the-night attack on Empire's Jussie Smollett.
Brutal attack in Chicago.
Brutal beating.
A brutal attack.
Just as heinous as you might imagine.
The horrific details.
Yeah, troubling details there, Brooke, when you think about this.
Choked with a rope and doused with a chemical.
This is horrible to report.
This one is so hard to process.
It's a pretty disturbing incident.
And certainly there are many indications of a hate crime here.
Danny, this is a horrible story. It gets worse. One of the offenders wrapped a rope around Smollett's neck.
Of course, our thoughts and prayers with Jussie.
Absolutely despicable.
And the circumstances are just horrific.
And this is America in 2019.
Liz, given this and the Covington kids story, do you think that maybe finally the media will be less quick on the trigger to assume that everyone who wears a red hat also has a white Klan robe at home?
Probably not, because this is America in 2019.
This is America in 2019.
Where they just run with the story with no skepticism because it fits their worldview that they didn't even have the facts, right? They didn't even know what the suspects were, but they just assumed because they said MAGA country in Chicago, which makes zero sense, that they could pin it on all Trump supporters. And oh gosh, it's so terrible.
Well, this is the world that 45
right.
has created for us.
But yeah, I mean, probably not. I'm actually surprised the media, they're still running with this story. They're still covering it. They're covering the press conference live. Usually I would figure they would kind of just drop it once it was obvious that it was a hoax, but they're still covering it. So that's good. Maybe they will learn a lesson, but I doubt it.
I do think that there is something to be learned here. Alex, what do you think the media's main takeaway is going to be from this story? And do you buy the idea that the media was skeptical enough of this story from the get-go, as many in the press world have argued?
Well, no. The obvious comparison here is Covington. I think there, at least, if in isolation, when you watch that first Covington video, you can understand how they reached the conclusion that they did and how they jumped to the gun. But from the very beginning of this story, it was so fishy. I think the takeaway is that they will learn nothing, because we've seen it 10 times over, and that's always the takeaway from the media.
Yeah.
I think we already saw how this is already going to be spun. I want to say last night it was Keith Boykin was on CNN, and his take on it was, well, the real takeaway is this is something that could have happened.
Right.
Yeah. The real story is that
fake, but accurate.
Yes, that's exactly morally right, as Ocasio-Cortez
That's what Kirsten Gillibrand said too. She was like, well, my broader point, jumping the gun on all this, was that this would be really bad, that homophobia and racism is terrible. So that's...
There is kind of an interesting question here, right? Which is that as humans, right, our first instinct is to feel bad for somebody who has been unjustly attacked. But at the same time, given the number of these stories that have turned out to be fake, I mean, I think we have finally seen the end of the hate receipt stories. When's the last time?
Right.
Yes,
when's the last time you saw a hate receipt story? You know why why people stopped running them? Is because they were all fake. They're all fake.
And this was basically a hate receipt this fake attack. It was exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, the rope around the neck, really, it just seemed, it was too good to be true for what the media thinks is good. Blaming all the Trump supporters for everything.
Did we exit question? Did we ever find out what kind of Subway sandwich that Jussie had that he refused to drop?
Probably sucked. Seafood sensation, one of those.
I think
one of the really crappy ones.
I think he said tuna in the GMA interview.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful. I mean, that's not even a good Subway. I mean, Subway sandwiches are bad generally.
Good Subway sandwiches.
But, all right. Next up, more Jussie Smollett. We're not done with him yet. Specifically, that terrible interview Robin Roberts had with him. The softest of softballs ever tossed underhand at a 6-year-old waiting to bat. Let's take a listen to that now.
I'm Robin Roberts in New York. Musician and actor Jussie Smollett sat down with me for his first interview since that night in Chicago. Smollett told me how he's doing now and responds to those who doubt his account.
I'm off.
What is it that has you so angry? Is it the attackers?
It's the attackers, but it's also the attacks. It's like, at first it was a thing of like, listen, if I tell the truth, then that's it, because it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even reliable sources had to acknowledge that this was a disaster of a discussion. Let's listen to Bill Carter take this piece down.
I wonder, Bill, if you think the Good Morning America interview, for example, was too soft on him. I mean,
clearly,
even by the time he sat down with Robin Roberts, there were a lot of doubts about his story.
And she had to press that, and she didn't really do it. Interestingly, he's a celebrity besides being a victim. He's an actor, and that was a celebrity interview more than a news person interview. And that's the way it felt like to me. Instead of getting to the facts, it was much more about him and his, the effects on him and things like that. Instead of saying, what is this? What really happened? It was not actually a news interview.
Alex, I have a serious question for a change, not a jokey question.
Not a jokey question.
How do you walk that fine line between interrogating a victim and trying to actually break news? I mean, this was branded as a news story, right?
Yeah.
And does this remind you? This reminded me. I'll just say this reminded me of the first Nathan Phillips interview.
Yes.
In which it was totally treated as how did this make you feel? What was the how could you possibly have deserved this? Instead of an actual news interview asking probing question, trying to get to the bottom of it. But it is tricky. How do you walk that line?
I think it's hard. Jussie Smollett did end up answering questions about, is this fake, essentially. So they got there eventually. But I do think you do have to, there's a way to ask questions and not appear sympathetic to your person. I mean, if it's that bad that he's being attacked by someone, you don't have to chime in. I think viewers get that. All you have to do is say, well, what happened to you? And when he says, I was beaten and attacked and had a noose put around my neck, I mean, do you as the interviewer have to chime in and say, that's awful? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's this great little tick in the Robin Roberts interview when she's like, and it's like that kind of, it's just that little hint of sympathy. Like I get it, Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think what's the real difference between a quote unquote celebrity interview and the rest of the interviews on CNN and MSNBC of any Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
They're all soft. I mean, it's the same as, the reporters shopping with Kamala Harris and picking out her coat for her, I mean, that's the way they treat these people, they're going to be soft.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this, interview actually does a great service because it shows how insane Jussie Smollett is. I mean, he is a sociopath. The way, he's smiling and saying, everyone knows 45.
Why do you think you were targeted?
I come really, really hard against 45.
Everyone knows.
No one knows who you
45.
are.
Yeah.
And he's just lying. And it's an amazing interview now that all the information coming out. That it's just a hoax.
Well, we as we were coming in to tape this, the Chicago police were talking about how he may have done this in order to try and earn a raise on Empire because nobody knows who he is. So if he threatened to walk from the show, I mean, it really is. There is like a staggering amount of kind of self-regard and sociopathy
right.
here. I mean, this guy. Somebody on Twitter noted that he had years ago when he was 18. been arrested for DUI and tried to pin it on his brother because he was arrested
Great
without
guy.
an ID. I mean, like, I actually think he needs to be put in prison for a long time just to keep him from putting anyone else in prison for faking his crimes. I mean,
he was fine with two randos getting picked up.
He was totally ready to go to the police station and finger these two random guys who the police had found. And when he realized that it was the guys that he had in fact hired, he freaked out. I mean, it's insane. And anyone who is still defending him or saying, "Oh, we really need to think about what this means for America," Don Lemon.
Don Lemon.
Don Lemon.
Oh, the real problem is Fox News going to eat his lunch.
Yeah, that's the real problem here. All right. Last but not least, in this top segment of the show is Lara Logan, the former CBS correspondent who was sexually assaulted in Egypt during that country's uprising. She's been making the rounds talking about media bias, and she had some strong words about the state of the media today in an interview with former Navy SEAL Mike Ritland. Let's take a listen to that.
But this idea that we're just the innocent bearers of the truth today and we're being unfairly attacked and we're under siege like never before and unprecedented times and all those hyperboles, breathless hyperboles that I hear all the time, they make me crazy. But none more so than the idea that it's never been more important than now for us to do our jobs. Yeah. No, it's like I've done my job to the best of my ability from the moment I started this job. When I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I will do it to the best of my ability till the day I die. And it doesn't, if whoever's in power, it's going to be the same. This idea that we need to now be professional and vigilant. No, we always need to be professional and vigilant. We always need to have moral courage. Yeah. We always need to be, diligent.
Liz, do you think that this means that Lara Logan is not going to be invited to Jim Acosta's birthday party?
Sadly, no. I don't think she would want to because she basically called him an during this interview. It's great. Because it's true. She's absolutely right. I think she's great. She is an actual journalist, too. Yeah. I mean, the firefighters running to, after 9/11 happened, she figured out the quickest way she could get into Afghanistan, to report and live with the Afghan military. This whole interview's amazing, and of course, it's absolutely true. The standards have been thrown out the window. You need two first-hand sources. Never happens anymore. Of course, she's probably not going to get hired back by CBS News for this, but it's absolutely true.
Do we think that she winds up on Fox after this round?
Hannity was lobbying hard.
Hannity's a big fan.
But you know what? She's a good journalist.
She's
not a Republican either. She's not she's just a journalist.
Alex, I thought that the most telling and I think correct part of her interview was when she was saying that it was offensive that people after the election of Trump were in the media were saying, well, now's the time we have to harder than ever. This is now the truth is more important than ever. We have to get out there and find it. That should always be the case. I mean, it's not
that just shows their bias right there.
I mean,
the journalism started on November 9th, 2016.
It's almost not even a subconscious. It's almost a conscious statement that they took the last 8 years before Trump off.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens a week from now when the Mueller report comes out and Nancy Pelosi becomes president. I mean, the question is going to be
the marshal of the Supreme Court drags Trump and Pence away.
Whether it's next week, 2 years from now, 6 years from now, Donald Trump is going to stop being president. It'll be interesting to see if all of the self pats on the back, all of the I'm probably not supposed to say circle jerk, but all of that going on in the media, is that going to keep going? I wouldn't think so. I mean, we saw that with the Kamala Harris stuff when they went clothes shopping with her and picked out the rainbow shirt. I mean, you can't go on about what a brave firefighter it is, how you're the one holding the feet to the fire, how important journalism is in this country, and then do stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, it really is one-sided.
She's a journalist. They're hacks. I mean, we're hacks, so we can say that too.
We're hacks.
They are political hacks. Yeah. They're activists, propagandists, just like she said, and that's what they do. They carry the water.
We know we're hacks. Is the difference
exactly, and we're not shy about it.
We know what we're doing here.
Yes, combat journalism.
Anyway, I'm going to talk to Harrison after the show about getting Logan hired here at the Free Beacon.
Yeah, we should offer
clear up some cap space by getting rid of everyone on this show. Hold on, I'm sorry. Now we turn to producer and bon vivant, Andrew Kugel. Andrew, what do you have for us this week?
I have breaking news.
Breaking news.
Yeah. CNN hired a Republican, and everyone is losing their minds.
Oh, no.
Newsflash. Yeah, CNN announced earlier this week they hired Sarah Isgur, former spokeswoman for Jeff Sessions in the Justice Department. And she's been hired as a politics editor who will help shape their 2020 coverage. That there has caused reporters and Democrats to lose their mind. Mm-hmm. They've said, like, I think Daily Beast reported that some CNN employees are demoralized. CNN's own media reporter, Brian Stelter, reported that some employees are worried about the ethical implications it causes for their political coverage. Reporters from the Washington Post, HuffPost, and other outlets have expressed outrage on social media about the hire. Just shows how ridiculous this is.
The network that literally has Obama officials anchoring news programs,
Jim
and the
Sciutto.
brother of New York's governor.
I mean, exactly.
Prime time. It's
the best is that
they're
when
such babies.
They announced they were hiring her, that was the same day that ABC announced that George Stephanopoulos, former comms director for Bill Clinton, was getting like a $3 million pay raise. No. So it's
for 4 more years of coverage.
Two of the 3 Sunday show hosts were former political operatives for Democrats.
Yeah.
And the other one, Chuck Todd, took over for Tim Russert, who was also a political operative.
That's
for
okay
Democrat.
because they're one of them. You know, and it just proves the point.
The thing I am most interested by this, I would really like to see a taxonomy of like what actual editors at CNN do. I don't know what that means. Like, what does the politics editor actually do? Like, for instance, at the Washington Free Beacon, we have an editor, Matthew Continetti. Then we have a senior editor, Bill Gertz, who's basically just a writer. And then we have me, executive editor, who's essentially just
a podcaster now.
A podcast monkey.
A lot of our titles don't make a lot of sense.
The only title that makes any sense here in terms of editors is Matt's as editor, and Stephanie Wang's as managing editor. She actually manages. She's the one who makes the trains run on time
exactly.
here. So I would actually be really curious to know what specifically a politics editor does, like shape politics cover. What does that even mean? I don't think it's.
So right now, from what I've read, is that they don't know what her role is exactly. They're going to have her like sit around and watch what they do and how they do it for the next several weeks and stuff, and then
it's pretty nice entry level journalism gig.
Yeah,
apparently she was selling her intimate knowledge of the Mueller investigation.
Hey, now
she was shopping around to MSNBC and CNN. At least I read that.
So. CNN quickly tried to defend their decision from Democrats and other reporters, saying like, "Oh, she's one of many people who will help shape the coverage, and she reports to someone else, so it's not like she alone will be doing it." I just found it funny that Brian Stelter was talking to some CNN executives and how they defended the decision to hire Sarah, but they wouldn't go on record defending her. So it's just those kind of great place for to go. CNN will have your back anonymously.
Well, I mean, between this and the Kevin Williamson thing at The Atlantic,
right.
it's always dicey for a conservative to join a...
Part of me wonders how much of this is a Republican thing. I mean, if Sarah was still working for Carly Fiorina and been hired in this role, if she was working for someone in the Senate like a Ben Sass type, I don't know that there'd be this much of a backlash. The fact that it's from the Trump administration, the fact that it's from Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, no, totally.
So you see the same knee-jerk anti-Trump stuff.
Andrew, what else?
And other news I have, Hero, California Representative Eric Swalwell, just showed how heroic and how much courage he has. Yesterday he took a selfie of himself in New York braving the snowstorm and saying he was going to avoid Trump Tower to get coffee because, that's what heroes do.
Wow, brave.
I have the quote of the tweet right here. "It's snowing in New York. I need coffee. The closest cafe is inside Trump Tower. This is me walking to an alternative."
And everyone could see exactly where he was. He was like in front of the Fendi, and then there were like 10 Starbucks less than a block away.
I mean, if you're in New York, if you're in Manhattan, you are never more than 50 feet from a Starbucks.
No.
But the problem is Starbucks is also run by a rival presidential candidate. So what's a guy to do? He has to find a peace.
Right, exactly.
And journalists actually did their job and were like fact checking Swalwell. I think Nate Silver did like a GPS screenshot of where he was at and stuff. Yeah. It was like, wow,
he's really
Democrat.
easy to mock. So
all right, thank you, Andrew. That was great. It's always fun to make fun of Eric Swalwell. He's the worst. Speaking of the worsts,
the worst.
Now we turn to my favorite segment of the week. First up, we have a retro TV clip of the week.
Yes.
Liz, can you walk us through this?
Sure. Well, we all know Bernie Sanders and officially announced he is running, but he's got a lot of baggage.
The Oppo teams have been hard at work on him over the last 4 years.
He was kicked out of the hippie commune, for not working.
For being a shirker.
Exactly. But we also have this clip that's been making the rounds on Twitter of when he was on The View last time he ran for president, and he was asked, who is your favorite fictional president? We have the clip.
Yeah, let's listen to that.
The first one is, who's your favorite fictional president?
I like The West Wing. All remember The West Wing?
Oh, yeah.
Martin Sheen, I think. And I thought that was actually fairly reflective of what really does go on in the White House.
Yeah.
Disastrous.
Yeah.
That is a disastrous response.
No.
How can anyone in this day and age like The West Wing?
I've never even watched it.
It's the worst.
No, liberals are on Facebook
and
are still
it's not
talking
accurate.
about it.
Everyone knows the most accurate DC politics show is Veep.
Veep, 100%.
It's not House of Cards. It's definitely not West Wing. It's Veep because these people are idiots. But yeah.
But the thing is, liberals and reporters will still have reunions of the West Wing cast. And talk
it's really
about,
sad.
How,
Remember that convention?
The convention, the West Wing convention. Yeah.
During 2016, every West Wing cast member did an ad for Hillary Clinton and saying why can't politics be like the West Wing and stuff? They still showed up after how many years it's been off the air.
Yeah. It's just. All right. Next up, we have a shockingly bad Prince story. Alex, can you fill us in on this this breaking news that teenagers sometimes have drinks?
Well, the Daily Mail has the scoop of the
Not
century.
even teenagers. I think she's 20. Anyway,
she's 20. Yeah.
She's 21 in July, according to the Daily Mail.
All right.
July 4th, funnily enough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm stepping all over this. What's the story, Alex?
So the story is that the Daily Mail has exclusive photos of Malia Obama, dun dun dun, drinking underage.
Oh no!
Yes.
Rosé all day was the headline. I like
Rosé
that.
all day was the headline. She's 20 years old, so very nearly legal, but she was drinking a bottle of rosé in, I want to say, Florida. And apparently this is a big deal. So basically everyone reacted to this with scorn, the notion that we should be invading their privacy to complain about underage drinking at the age of 20.
The only critique of young Obama that I saw was how dare she drink an $80 bottle of wine. Now look, fair. An $80 bottle of rosé. Come on.
I will go even further and say why drink rosé at all.
Wow, fair.
Once upon a time, there was the Daily Caller posted pictures of her playing beer pong. So she's devolved as I see it. I mean, she was once playing the Game of Champions.
She used to be cool.
She used to be a red-blooded American, and now she's she's bougie.
Rosé.
It's terrible. But apparently conservatives pounced on this.
Conservatives pounced.
The tweet I saw in particular is from, this is her handle, Angry Black Lady.
Yeah,
I'm not being racist or sexist.
Whoa.
Conservatives are frothing at the mouth over Malia Obama drinking rosé at the party just shy of her 21st birthday. These are the same people who had no problem giving Justice Brett Kegstand a lifetime appointment to SCOTUS. Well, as we established, keg stands are cooler than rosé.
Keg stands 100% cooler.
So but of course, there were no actual conservatives frothing.
Right.
And usually when you say that, you do a little asterisk, except for the crazy ones. But even the crazy ones were like...
This is just like the AOC dancing. No one was actually upset that she was dancing. No, conservatives.
Yeah, most conservatives were pretty into it.
Yeah, they're like, this is fine. And no one cares about.
I will go on the record and say we should lock her up.
Fair enough.
Good.
All right. Kugel pounces. All right. Speaking of Andrew Kugel, what's the worst tweet this week, Andrew?
It comes from Bob Menendez's comms director. She tweeted out, "Gotta respect Bob Menendez. Democrat senator slams Tucker Carlson's trash website. I won't answer questions to the Daily Caller." This stems from when Daily Caller reporter Henry Rogers was trying to ask Menendez a question, and he responded, "Not interested. I have nothing to say to the Daily Caller. You're trash. I won't answer questions to the Daily Caller, period. You're trash. Don't keep harassing me or I'll call Capitol Police."
Ooh.
This sounds like a threat to democracy.
Why doesn't he respect our firefighters in the running through the halls of the Capitol trying to get comment from him?
You got to ask him that, but watch out. He might call the cops on you.
Ugh. Yeah, nobody's going to let me within 100 feet of Bob Menendez.
No.
Do you want to go 100 feet of Bob Menendez?
No.
Absolutely
He's
not.
creepy. He's creepy. All right. And of course, we at the Free Beacon aren't perfect. We make mistakes. We screw up sometimes. This week, the worst of the Beacon was me? Question mark?
Always.
Over the weekend, I tweeted, boy, I sure wish Amazon paid more in federal taxes so everything I bought from Amazon would be more expensive. And this was actually like the perfect sort of tweet to unite both socialist Rose Twitter and like neoliberal Vox Twitter against me, because the socialist...
Did you get ratioed?
No, I didn't. I did not get
I
ratioed.
just went back and checked. Yes.
5,000 likes.
Nice.
Ooh.
5,000 likes on that. Because
5,000 people like not paying more for Amazon.
Exactly.
Go figure.
They because the socialists want to take all the money from Amazon, and the neoliberals think that if you just tax profits, there can't possibly be any economic downstream effects of that. And I understand thinking that I'm an idiot, because I am. I'm fine with that. People think I'm an idiot. You just get me going on pasta in a minute. I'll really blow your minds. But like the idea that Amazon, which does not compete solely on price, which also competes on convenience and name brand and loyalty, would just like sit there and absorb some sort of massive tax hit is lunacy. That's not what happened. Prices would probably go up. There would be downstream effects. It would not be like a sales tax. It would not be like 5% extra on every purchase that you make. But the idea that there would be no effects, insane. So screw all you guys. I'm the best. I'm not the worst.
Quick thing on that though, Amazon paid taxes. They're just getting a refund. That's like the thing, right?
Well, they paid $0. They actually paid $- in federal taxes in the last year because of tax refunds and like depreciation and stuff. So I mean, like the point people were making was this $1 trillion business doesn't pay any taxes, which is not true. They pay local and state and sales tax and all that, but like whatever.
Maybe we should ask AOC, because she's a real expert on
yeah, we could find out how many subways Amazon could pay for if we would just not have them come to New York. All right, that's all the time we have this week. Make sure to review us on iTunes and tell your friends that we exist, because that's how people find out about the show. Or don't do that. I'm not the boss of you. See you guys next week.